Okay, let's unpack this. Have you ever encountered an artist whose work grabs you by the collar, pulls you into a world you might not recognize, and then just won't let you look away?
Mm,
Someone who, through their lens, their unique vision, really forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about youth culture, societal fringes, the whole messy business of growing up.
yeah.
Today, we're diving deep into the extraordinary, often controversial, and always compelling world of Lawrence Donald Clark, better known as Larry Clark.
What's so compelling, I think, about Clark's trajectory is how, across decades, he consistently trained his gaze on subjects many prefer to ignore.
Right.
He wasn't just documenting them. He was, shaping our understanding of youth subcultures and actively challenging established narratives about what's normal or acceptable.
Exactly.
So our mission today is to really explore how his own personal experiences fueled that raw documentary style. We'll trace his artistic journey from the groundbreaking photography to his impactful and often polarizing films like Kids in Tulsa. And we'll look at the controversies, which were inevitable, really,
Oh, yeah.
and consider the enduring, complex questions his art still provokes.
And that commitment to exploring the edges, to, challenging our comfort zones, that's what makes his story so gripping.
It really is.
So get ready for some surprising facts and maybe a few aha moments as we explore the life and legacy of an artist who never shied away from the edge. In fact, he kind of seemed to thrive right there.
Seems that way.
Every artist has a beginning, right? A crucible where their unique perspective is forged. For Larry Clark, that seems to have been Tulsa, Oklahoma. But it wasn't just a geographical starting point, was it? His early life feels like an immersion, almost, into the very themes that would define his art for decades.
Yeah, if we connect this to the bigger picture, Clark's upbringing really gave him this intimate, firsthand view of the worlds he would later document with such unflinching honesty. Born Lawrence Donald Clark on January 19th, 1943, in Tulsa. He got into photography remarkably young.
How young?
Well, his mother was an itinerant baby photographer, always on the move. And from the age of 14, he was enlisted basically in the family business.
14, wow.
Yeah, so this wasn't just like a casual hobby. It was hands-on apprenticeship, learning the mechanics of the camera, the art of observation, composition, lighting, darkroom work, the whole craft.
So he was literally born into this visual world, learning the craft while still figuring things out as a teenager. That's quite a foundation.
It really is.
And you mentioned his family dynamics. They sound unconventional. His mom, the itinerant baby photographer, framing these idealized images.
Exactly, these sort of perfect, often saccharine images of childhood.
But then his dad was a traveling sales manager, selling books door to door, rarely home. How do you think that specific, maybe transient family structure influenced him?
Well, that structure, the constant movement, his father's absence, it could have influenced him profoundly. On one hand, the transient nature of his mother's work exposed him to different places, different people.
Fostering independence.
Yeah, fostering an independent and highly observational spirit. He wasn't rooted in one place, He saw this fluid landscape of human experience. Sharpened his eye, maybe. But then on the other hand, you have this stark contrast. The staged innocence of baby photography.
Right, the perfect poses.
Versus what he was likely seeing and living himself. It's almost like being trained to create artifice pushed him to seek out and expose what felt genuinely authentic and, well, raw.
That makes sense. He learned to build the perfect image, so he turned his lens on the imperfections.
Precisely. It's a powerful dialectic for an artist, as you say. Framing perfection maybe ingrain a deeper awareness of the imperfect realities he chose to expose.
And it wasn't just family life shaping him. His personal experiences took a pivotal turn in 1959. He was just 16.
Yeah, this is key.
When Larry Clark started injecting amphetamines with his friends, this isn't just a biographical detail, is it? It feels like the actual genesis of his whole artistic path.
Absolutely. You hit on something crucial there for understanding the authenticity and, frankly, the confrontational nature of his later work.
He wasn't just watching.
No, not at all. His personal involvement in drug use so young, with his friends in Tulsa, gave him this authentic, intimate access. He wasn't an outsider parachuting in.
Right, like a journalist.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He was living the reality he would document. An insider, aware of the nuances, the highs, the lows, the desperation.
He could capture the feeling of it.
That's it. The lived experience an external observer could never truly access. And at the same time, he was attending the Leighton School of Art in Milwaukee, studying under Walter Scheffer and Gerhard Baker.
So this incredible intersection, living this raw life but also getting formal art training.
Quite a mix.
How do you think that formal education interacted with those intense personal experiences? Did it give him a framework, or did he rebel against it?
Probably a bit of both, actually. A framework and a subtle rebellion, ultimately empowering his voice. The training gave him the technical skills, composition, light, process.
The tools?
The tools to capture his experiences with artistic intention. Not just snapshots, but consciously crafted art.
But the academic setting?
Well, it probably provided a counterpoint, too. A space to reflect critically, artistically, on his reality. It gave him the means to translate his personal truth into a compelling artistic statement, not just raw data.
So it wasn't just biography, it was art rooted in lived experience.
Exactly, an insider's perspective. And that set the stage for his confrontational, often polarizing approach, transforming personal truth into powerful art that resonated, challenged, forced people to look.
With these formative years behind him, his path took some unexpected detours before he unveiled that groundbreaking work. How does an artist take those deeply personal, maybe traumatic experiences and make them universal?
That's a huge question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And central to impactful art. Clark's journey from Tulsa took a really significant detour through the Vietnam War.
Ah, right. Vietnam.
That experience undoubtedly shaped his perspective before he published Tulsa in 1971. But first, in '64, he moved to New York City, trying to make it as a freelance photographer.
The classic artist move.
Yeah, trying to break into that competitive art world. But then, within just 2 months of arriving, bam, drafted into the U.S. Army.
Wow. Talk about an abrupt turn. New York art scene to the military.
A stark shift. He served from '64 to '65 in Vietnam, specifically in a unit supplying ammunition to units fighting up north.
So not necessarily frontline combat, but right there in the machinery of war, supplying the bullets. That's intense.
Absolutely. Direct, sustained exposure to the raw mechanics and brutal realities. The impact on a young artist's psyche. Immense.
Indelible.
Witnessing that kind of violence, desperation, mortality.
It would have intensely sharpened his desire to document harsh truth, wouldn't it? A theme already rooted in his early life, seeing life and death so unvarnished.
No sugarcoating possible after that. None. It could have just hardened his resolve to portray life without romanticization, reinforced his commitment to the uncompromising edges of existence.
So the war, plus his earlier experiences.
It likely cemented his commitment to that unflinching, confrontational realism.
Yeah.
Ensuring that when he turned his lens back home, his gaze had seen humanity at its most vulnerable and its most brutal.
And it's this crucible, raw youth, brutal war that finally coalesced in Tulsa, released in '71. He'd been carrying a camera routinely for years, right? Since '63.
Yeah, basically documenting his life and his close friends, his drug-shooting coterie, as the source puts it quite vividly.
Wow.
Those pictures became Tulsa, a black-and-white photo documentary showing his young friend's drug use.
And it was revolutionary, wasn't it? Why did it hit so hard?
For several profound reasons. Critically, as we touched on, it wasn't an external observer.
The insider thing again.
Exactly. A participant capturing his own reality, his friends' lives. That gave the images unparalleled intimacy, rawness, authenticity. They weren't posing. They were just living.
Sharing needles, getting high, the everyday moments.
Mundane, euphoric, tragic moments of drug use in daily life. And Clark was right there. Critics said his photos were exposing the reality of American suburban life at the fringe.
And shattering long-held mythical conventions that drugs and violence were solely indicative of the urban landscape. That, quote, nails it.
It's absolutely central. It shattered that myth.
Because back then, the narrative was that kind of stuff happened in cities,
Yeah.
right? Not in nice suburban homes.
Exactly. Gritty urban environments, shadowy fringes. Tulsa showed it wasn't exclusive. It forced society to look beyond that manicured image of suburbia.
Suggesting these issues were hidden behind closed doors, even in seemingly wholesome places.
Right. It made it impossible to ignore the underbelly, even in middle America. Stripped away the facade of suburban innocence, revealed a darker, more complex reality many preferred didn't exist in their neighborhoods.
Especially not among, white middle-class kids.
Precisely. It wasn't just showing drug use. It was who was using and where. Bedrooms, living rooms that looked like anywhere, USA, challenged a deeply ingrained cultural myth.
Felt like a punch to the gut for some, I bet.
Oh, definitely. But for others, maybe those living similar lives, it was profound recognition, presenting uncomfortable truth, not preaching, just laying bare reality as he lived it.
Okay, so after Tulsa, he didn't just stop. He followed up with Teenage Lust in 1983, described as an autobiography of his teen past, but through images of others. That sounds interesting.
Yeah, it's a fascinating evolution, still exploring his past, but through a broader lens, incorporating other narratives, still drawing from his own experience, but expanding the scope.
What did Teenage Lust cover specifically? How did it build on Tulsa?
It was incredibly wide-ranging and, again, pretty provocative, deliberately pushed boundaries further.
More intense.
Definitely continued delving into youth, sex, addiction, but with a broader, almost anthropological feel. It included intimate family photos.
His own family.
Yes. Alongside more explicit depictions of teenage drug use, graphic pictures of teenage sexual activity, and even documenting young male hustlers in Times Square.
Wow, so really juxtaposing personal history with these raw portrayals of youth on the fringes.
Exactly. Constructing a more complex narrative, using others' lives to reflect his own experiences, constantly challenging what was acceptable for public view, forcing confrontation with uncomfortable truths about adolescence, emerging sexuality.
And beyond those books, he did an essay called The Perfect Childhood, looking at media's effect on youth culture.
Yeah, that's a fascinating turn. From documenting raw reality to critically examining media's influence, shows a growing awareness of the broader context.
I like asking, how does the media's idealized version contrast with the messy reality I've shown you?
Sort of, yeah. And despite all the controversy, the explicit content, his photos ended up in major institutions.
Right, you mentioned the Whitney Museum of Photographic Arts, MFA Boston.
Among others. It signifies that despite the shock value, his artistic vision, his honesty, his contribution to photography were recognized for their merit.
A real tension there. Public outrage versus art world validation.
Definitely. It shows his progression, exploring sex, media critique, and gaining artistic acceptance, even if it was within a specific critical context.
So, by the early 90s, Larry Clark is this established, if controversial, voice in photography, documenting these raw realities. But maybe the still frame felt limiting, which leads us to filmmaking. How does a master photographer whose career is built on freezing moments make that leap into moving pictures?
Well, what's compelling is that transition often signals an artist wanting a more expansive narrative, right? Film allows for character development over time, dialogue, movement, sound. Stuff photography can't fully capture.
True.
For Clark, it wasn't accidental, it was deliberate, sparked by a specific experience in 1993. He directed Chris Isaak's music video for Solitary Man.
A music video that feels like a perfect, almost low-stakes entry point. Visual storytelling, short narrative arc, mood, aesthetic.
Exactly. It's a natural extension for someone so focused on narrative and character in his photo series. It offered a taste of storytelling in motion.
A place to experiment with film direction.
An ideal environment, really. Relatively low stakes. Music videos are narrative, visual, emotional. For someone like Clark, who mastered capturing moments and visual narratives in stills, directing a video let him explore connecting those frames over time, play with pacing, movement, sound, working with actors, a crew, all without the huge pressure of a feature film.
Makes sense. A larger canvas, more tools.
Yeah, to explore the complexities with greater depth and duration.
And that exposure clearly lit a fire, because after publishing more photos, he meets Harmony Korine in New York and just asks him to write the screenplay for his first feature film, Kids.
Yeah, that collaboration feels incredibly significant, almost destined.
Why them? What made that pairing work?
It's crucial. A powerful fusion of voices. Harmony Korine, even young, was known for his own provocative, raw portrayals of youth, outsiders. He had this distinct, authentic voice.
That resonated with Clark's vision.
Exactly. Clark brought the seasoned, unflinching eye, the deep personal understanding, the documentary aesthetic. Korine brought a fresh perspective, raw dialogue, a cinematic structure.
The right ingredients at the right time.
Pretty much. The collaboration resulted in Kids, released in '95. Immense controversy, mixed reviews, but instantly a cultural touchstone.
It really struck a nerve, didn't it? Captured something raw and unsettling about a generation. Felt like they were both seen and maybe vilified.
Yes, it became a lightning rod, challenged audiences in unprecedented ways, an explosive combination, something people just couldn't ignore.
And just like that, Kids explodes onto the scene, not just a film, a cultural event. For many, their first encounter with Clark's gaze. And it sparked a firestorm. What made it so impactful? Why did it hit such a nerve in the mid-90s?
Well, connecting to the bigger picture, Kids didn't just depict youth culture. For many, it seemed to embody it. captivating and deeply alarming.
A lightning rod for anxiety.
Exactly. About adolescent behavior, loss of innocence, especially with HIV/AIDS rising, concerns about urban youth. Its impact came from its unfiltered depiction.
How so?
In Kids, his most widely known film, boys portrayed as young as 12 are shown casually drinking using drugs. It deals explicitly with underage sex, HIV transmission.
With no sugarcoating, no moralizing?
None. It presented these things as almost routine parts of the characters' daily lives.
That word casually really hits, doesn't it? Not extreme incidents, but part of the everyday fabric for some.
Especially within that specific NYC subculture.
Must have been a stark contrast to Hollywood teens back then, usually sanitized or romanticized rebellion.
Totally. Kids presented this harsh truth as everyday. The casual nature was provocative because it suggested these behaviors weren't confined to some deviant fringe. It implied a more widespread, hidden reality many adults were uncomfortable acknowledging.
Well, Hollywood showed teens grappling with coming-of-age stuff palatably.
Kids plunged you into a world where innocence felt lost, and consequences, like HIV, were immediate, harsh. Less fiction, more raw, documentary-style observation. Clark's signature on film.
Which made it deeply uncomfortable. Forced confrontation. Sparked outrage from parents, educators, conservatives, saw it as glorifying dangerous behavior.
Pretty much. And if the content wasn't enough, the rating controversy added fuel to the fire.
Right, the NC-17 rating. Nobody 17 or under admitted that's severe, usually for very explicit adult content.
Indeed. The NC-17 itself generated massive public debate, boosted the film's notoriety before many even saw it, branded it as extreme, dangerous, unsuitable for teens.
Who were, ironically, the ones maybe living some of it.
Exactly. And then, fascinatingly, it was later released without a rating.
How did that happen?
Disney bought Miramax, the original distributor. Disney, family-friendly brand.
Ah! Didn't want the NC-17 association.
Precisely. An NC-17 rating was a liability for their image. So, by withdrawing it from the MPAA system, releasing it unrated, they bypassed traditional censorship.
In a strange twist, that might have allowed wider distribution than NC-17, right? Though still controversial.
Yeah, though theaters still had discretion. But it highlights the corporate maneuvering around provocative art, commercial interests, brand perception.
And the debate about ratings, what's appropriate, that's still going on, makes the kids' controversy really relevant.
Absolutely. It highlights the tension. Artistic freedom, protecting youth, commercial realities. A conversation we're still having.
Kids force that public conversation. Who decides what kids see? Is depicting harsh reality more harmful than ignoring it?
Right. It underscored the discomfort with art that refused easy answers or moral lessons. Just presented a world, leaving judgment to the viewer. That was Clark's thing. Explains why its legacy is still debated. It was a mirror society wasn't always ready for.
Kids definitely wasn't the end, though. It seemed to solidify his commitment, push boundaries even further. What does his later work reveal about his artistic drive?
What's fascinating is his unwavering dedication to his themes, despite ongoing controversy. He didn't rest on kids' laurels. He kept experimenting, challenging, often intensifying the graphic nature.
He kept directing.
Yeah, a handful of additional independent features after Kids, a sustained drive, filmmaking becoming his primary medium.
And he was incredibly prolific for a time, 3 features quickly.
He was, astonishingly so. In 2001, shot 3 features, Bully, Ken Park, and Teenage Caveman, in just 9 months.
Wow. Intense output for intense subject.
Absolutely. And what's notable is, as of 2017, those were his last films with professional actors.
Really? Why move away from prose?
Well, good question. Maybe a desire for even greater realism, leaning into that raw, untrained authenticity from his early photos.
Or maybe difficulties with the industry, preferring non-actors.
Could be either, or both. It suggests a deeper commitment to unvarnished reality. Finding trained actors maybe couldn't embody that naturalistic rawness he wanted.
And that push for authenticity clearly continued with films like Ken Park, which ramped up the controversy even more than Kids.
It definitely did. Ken Park, 2002, co-directed with Edward Lachman, described as more sexually and violently graphic than Kids.
So?
It had scenes that pushed boundaries even then, including autoerotic asphyxiation,
Whoa.
followed by ejaculation by an emotionally rattled high school boy, played by James Ransone, then in his early 20s.
Okay, that's intense. How was that received?
Globally,
Yeah.
it highlights how much it challenged norms.
Yeah.
In Australia, banned outright. Too graphic.
Grand.
Yep. Public outrage was so intense, a protest screening got shut down by police. Film critic Margaret Pomeranz was almost arrested just for trying to show it.
almost arrested for screening a film. That's incredible. Speaks volumes about the alarm it caused. Was the world just not ready even after kids?
Seems like it wasn't uniformly ready, no. The reaction suggested kids push one boundary, but Clark was crossing others. The bans, the police action, showed a strong, visceral aversion, especially to the sexual frankness.
What about the U.S. release?
Interestingly, Ken Park wasn't released in the U.S. Clark claimed it was because the producer failed to get music releases, not the content.
Convenient explanation, given the international backlash.
You could certainly view it with skepticism. Might have been a way to sidestep the obvious content issues for a U.S. release, but he kept working. Another Day in Paradise in '98.
Which won an award, right?
Yeah, at Cognac. Then Wassup Rockers in '05, exploring different youth cultures. Marfa Girl in 2012, The Smell of Us in 2014, continuing his themes.
So despite controversies, bans, he kept getting recognition at festivals. That's a real tension.
Absolutely. Artistic vision validated by the film community, even amid public outrage. Won top prizes. Cognac for Another Day in Paradise, Stockholm for Bully, Rome for Marfa Girl.
Competed for the Golden Palm, Golden Lion.
Right. Creates this compelling tension. Artistic validation from critics, juries recognizing his talent, versus public outrage and censorship, underscores the divide between art house appreciation and broader acceptance.
Shows controversy didn't necessarily kill artistic merit in peers' eyes, and he kept working. Marfa Girl 2 in 2018 sustained provocative output.
Exactly, kept pushing boundaries.
It feels impossible to discuss Clark's work without considering the man himself, his personal struggles, temperament. How do these illuminate the themes he explores? What does it mean for understanding this complex figure?
That's a key question. The relationship between an artist's personal life and public output. Clark's work is so personal, so embedded in lived experience. Understanding his challenges gives crucial context.
Like his lifelong struggle with drug abuse.
Exactly, directly linked to his art subjects. In a very raw 2016 interview, he openly discussed it. Decades-long battle with addiction.
Such a raw admission from someone depicting drug abuse so explicitly. Adds another layer, right? Irony, authenticity. Blurs the lines.
It really does. Documentarian and subject blurred. How did it intersect with his filmmaking?
Did he talk about that?
He stated explicitly he maintained total sobriety while filmmaking. A self-imposed discipline. Needed to function in that demanding role.
But there was an exception.
One notable exception.
Yeah.
Filming Marfa Girl. He said he was in severe pain from double knee replacement surgery, used opiates to manage it.
Wow. Shows the severity of the pain, breaking that boundary. Underscores how pervasive his struggle was.
Exactly. Intertwined with his life, even while trying to maintain artistic control, adds a tragic depth. He wasn't just documenting struggles from afar, he was grappling with similar demons. Gives his art an almost autobiographical intensity.
That kind of honesty, even in contradiction, speaks volumes. But the complexity doesn't stop there. His volatile temperament feels disturbingly consistent with the raw emotion, violence in his films.
And it wasn't just in the art. It spilled into public actions.
Like the incident in 2002.
It's indeed a deeply troubling incident. Spent hours in a police cell after assaulting Hamish McAlpine, head of Metro Tartan, UK distributor for Ken Park.
Assaulting him.
Punched him, reportedly tried to strangle him, left McAlpine with a broken nose.
Good grief. What started it?
An argument about Israel and Middle East, according to McAlpine, who claimed he didn't provoke Clark, paints a picture of a potentially volatile personality. Extreme aggression, little apparent provocation in the real world.
That's incredibly disturbing. Forces you to confront how closely the creator's personality might mirror the intense confrontational energy in his art.
Right. How does that real-world aggression relate? Does it suggest a deep emotional connection to the themes, life bleeding into art, or just a difficult temperament finding its way into his interactions?
Maybe both.
It invites both interpretations. Important not to be definitive. On one hand, maybe the intense emotions, aggression in his art stem from something deeply felt, uncontrolled within Clark himself, his life mirroring the energy he depicts. Or it could just point to a difficult, maybe self-destructive temperament, somewhat independent of his art, but informing the themes he's drawn to. Either way, it complicates perception, adds another layer to the visceral experience of his work, blurs artist and art uncomfortably.
So we have this artist, battling addiction, volatile, pushing boundaries constantly, yet his work, despite controversy and personal struggles, eventually gains this commercial recognition, this staying power. A fascinating paradox.
That's crucial. Speaks to the enduring cultural impact, especially of kids. In 2015, Clark collaborated with Supreme, the skateboard clothing brand.
Supreme.
Yeah, for the 20th anniversary of Kids. A collection of decks, t-shirts, sweatshirts with film stills. Released globally, New York, LA, London, Japan. Shows significant commercial appeal.
That collaboration is wild. An artist starting on the fringes, documenting underground subcultures, facing bans. Then his iconic film becomes a commercial product, a fashion statement for a huge youth brand.
It really highlights that transformation. Edgy art becomes commercial iconography.
A testament to Kid's enduring impact. How his vision resonated so deeply, it transcended shock to become recognizable, celebrated.
Absolutely. Shows how an artist documenting the marginalized can influence broad trends, fashion, transforming taboo into trend.
But does that commercialization dilute the original message or broaden its reach, cementing its status?
That's the crucial question, isn't it? Something to ponder.
From his early days in Tulsa through Vietnam to his groundbreaking, often shocking photography and films, Larry Clark consistently showed us worlds many prefer hidden, left us with a lot to chew on.
We've explored his deep personal connections to youth, drugs, sex, violence, how his life struggles mirrored his heart. His work forces confrontation with uncomfortable realities, questions, assumptions about innocent suburbia, artistic boundaries. The controversies are part of his legacy, linked to its power.
Absolutely, and it makes you wonder, what's an artist's responsibility to reflect reality, especially uncomfortable reality? And how do we, the audience, engage with such uncompromising visions? It's a question Clark's work forces us to revisit again and again, long after the shock wears off.
Indeed. And maybe another question to mull over. How much should an artist's personal life color our interpretation, especially when the work portrays controversial personal themes so intimately?
Does it enhance authenticity or complicate judgment?
When the creator's struggles echo the subjects, it's complex, something for you to reflect on as you digest this deep dive.